This is the Bat Flip Podcast. Now here's your host, Damien, David, and Matt. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. Damien, David, Matt here with you. Man, did we think we were going to have a boring episode 24 hours ago, and did this get turned upside down in one way or another? We got Rafael Devers with some breaking news getting traded to the Giants. We got Shohei Ohtani's return to the mound that seemingly came out of nowhere. Then we got some other injuries and then call-up wrap-ups that we need to hit on as well. But obviously, before we get on to that, Matt, how you doing this week?
I'm doing pretty good. Just been hanging out and not watching too much of the College World Series. I missed a pretty good bit of it. I had a lot of things going on this weekend, but I've been keeping up. I saw it today. I know we probably won't get to it too much, but they had a 19 strikeout no-hitter today, which was pretty crazy. I mean, to be fair, Murray State is in the College World Series, and well, that's an awesome story and good for Murray State. I'm not going to say they didn't deserve to get there because they won the games required to, but Murray State is not the same quality of team as the others in Omaha. So, but it was still a really crazy game. Everything's going pretty well. David, how have you been this week?
Good. One of those things where I think the overarching theme of today's episode is kind of going to be that shocking trade, right? I feel like I've been simmering in the lull before the hype of the trade deadline and the draft and the All-Star break and everything. And, I'm in a good mood because I saw today Pete Crow-Armstrong leads all National League outfielders in All-Star votes. Number 2 is Kyle Tucker. I'm big and happy about that at the moment. Cubs fans, keep voting. We got to get those boys in the All-Star game and starting. That'll be really fun. But, just in terms of, this baseball stuff, right? The offense has gone cold, but the Cubs keep squeaking out wins. I'm very happy about that. And we're getting like live updates right now regarding the first talk from Craig Breslow. So if we have to zip out, if you see me zipping out to get something, I'm trying to put it in our notes as to what he's saying. 'Cause he's live right now too, talking for the first time since the trade. So I'm trying to put that in there so we have that info. But Damien, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing good. First off, hope everyone had a good Father's Day weekend. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers there. But it was fun. I mean, I went to the races for the first time, and man, I couldn't even say how long since I've been out to the track here. So was able to go hang out there and have some fun, watch some racing. Got to see Kershaw shove against the Giants. Like, what else is new? Everything is right in the world because that happens. But obviously, we had the shock news yesterday. I know everyone was buzzing that Shohei Ohtani's coming back, the biggest news that there is in the baseball world. Seemingly got swept right under the rug since the Devers trade happened. But in general, it's been a good week. Like I mentioned, I thought we were going to have a little bit of a boring show, and man, did like 10 minutes before the game started yesterday on Night Baseball with the pitcher getting pulled from the bullpen who's getting ready to start the game, being told he's traded to the Boston Red Sox. What a wild scene with like the catcher just walking out of the bullpen by himself, and Giants players figuring out like, what do you mean? Like, we don't have a starting pitcher today. And what do you mean? Like, man, that wild. But obviously we're going to talk about the Devers thing. So let's just get into that right here on the beginning. So friend of the show, Robert Murray, dropped a tweet at I'm trying to look it up so I get the right time.
It's like 7:30 or 8, wasn't it?
At 3:51 in normal people time.
That's not even
West Coast time.
Try again.
3:51 West Coast time. Legitimately 10 minutes before the Dodgers Giants are supposed to kick off on Sunday Night Baseball. He just drops breaking Rafael Devers to Giants. David and I both put it in the chat simultaneously. We're like, What? Like, what is happening? And then we get that it's for Jordan Hicks, Kyle Harrison, and more. We later find out the more is outfield prospect James Tibbs, who was, I think, the 13th overall pick in the last year's draft.
Yep.
And then I believe Jose Bayo, he's a shortstop, I want to say. I don't know if he's related to Brian Bayo on the Red Sox. I haven't looked up that far yet. But what a wild trade. And the Giants obviously get Rafael Devers, and they're taking on the entirety of his contract, which is roughly the Giants will be paying 9 years, $250 million when you consider the 18 million-ish that he'll be paid from the Giants this year after that contract gets paid down. But I believe it's an AAV of like 27-ish million, I think, after this. So in general, David, what were you thinking when we just got that Robert Murray breaking Devers to Giants tweet out of nowhere?
First of all, props to Robert Murray for getting this one first, man. That's awesome. So happy for Robert because we talked to him. He's been on the show before, and he's a really good guy by all accounts and everything. I'm glad he got that news because that's super awesome for him. In terms of the reaction, like all this we've talked about the consternation. 2 weeks ago we talked about the Red Sox going to be able to kind of turn things around. Since that episode, they did. They're like 8-2 since that episode aired. So they've turned it around. They've been looking so much better. This is a ridiculous trade. It's a ridiculous result of poor communication between the front office over change, right? From Shane Bloom to Breslow, from the manager and all of that. Like the authority seems to have just been completely mismanaged here. Devers obviously was upset, a couple weeks ago. We felt like it was something that could hinder the team's performance, but we didn't really feel like, it's not something to trade him over, right? He's kind of your cornerstone guy. You're going to keep that guy around. Craig Breslow did not sign that contract. So my thought is like, Craig Breslow was like, look, I'm willing to get rid of you. Like, you're not listening to us. You're not doing what's best for the team. Like I'm ready to move on. To logically though, like, there's like maybe 10 players in baseball is like hitters in baseball that are better than Rafael Devers, maybe 15 if you're generous. Like this is one of the best hitters in baseball, definitely one of the best left-handed hitters in baseball. I don't really care if he's bad at third base, bad at first base, DHing, whatever. He's one of the best hitters in baseball. So it doesn't really, we just saw Vladdy Jr. pick up $500 million. Like this deal is not a bad deal right now. And you're seeing the exec talk going in here and be like, oh, there's so much money. The Giants are going to be underwater. The Giants are like the fifth biggest market in baseball. Like they're fine. They're not going to be hindered by this at all. They've been trying to spend, $400+ million on Aaron Judge and Carlos Correa and all these guys. Like they're just doing it with 3 guys now instead of with Adames, Chapman, and Devers. That's fine. That's good. That's a good chunk of your line. Now, Adames has been bad. Hopefully he's able to turn it around. But I mean, this is like what a Willie Adames needs is a guy like Devers behind him to provide that Christian Yelich support that he had in Milwaukee, where he can kind of be the masher that you're not as afraid of. But when he's the main guy in the lineup, he's getting attacked. He's kind of getting exposed. I think Willie Adames is kind of a complementary piece, and that works now with Rafael Devers in this lineup. So what a great move for the Giants. What are the Red Sox doing? That's where I'm at. This whole thing is ridiculous. It shouldn't have come to this is where I feel like I'm at right now.
Yeah. I'll say, so I think there's a lot to unpack here with on both sides. I think that the Red Sox, you kind of look at it in the way that I don't entirely blame the Red Sox for this one because it's not like they weren't willing to spend the money on Devers. And honestly, what got them in this predicament is that they wanted to spend more money to improve the team because they brought in Alex Bregman. And when they brought in Alex Bregman and tried to kick Devers from third, then that's what started causing the issues. And honestly, I don't totally blame Craig Breslow for this either because at the end of the day, if you've got a guy who's outright bashing the franchise and the media about lying to them and not being upfront with them and just being a problem, being a distraction. I don't care how good he is. I mean, at a certain point, it's like, he obviously doesn't want to be there. He obviously, he's still playing pretty well, but it's not, in fact, he's been great at the plate this year, but I understand wanting to move on because you can reinvest that $250 million this offseason. And it looks like the Boston Red Sox are probably kind of not as good as we were expecting. And it looks like they're probably going to be out of it right now. So, I understand it from their end. And for the Giants, I totally understand it. Look, this guy, Rafael Devers, is an incredible bat. They've been trying to sign a superstar, as David was alluding to. They tried to sign Aaron Judge. They tried to sign Bryce Harper back several years ago. They tried to sign Carlos Correa. They've tried a bunch, and they haven't really been able to get it done. And they've signed a couple of, semi-stars and Willie Adames, Matt Chapman, those types of guys. But they haven't really been able to just go get a superstar bat and just an anchor in their lineup. I mean, we're looking at a team that hasn't had a 30 home run hitter in how long? Like
2004.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was Barry Bonds was the last one to do it, which is crazy. So, I mean, obviously that this is the big bat. That the thing that would concern me a little bit for and I really don't think the Giants gave up that much for him. I'm really not a huge believer in either of the two young guys they gave up, the Kyle Harrison or James Tibbs. And I think that, Hicks is good, but he's not like some kind of irreplaceable guy. But the thing that does concern me a little bit for the Giants here is that, I mean, you're basically going to do the same thing with Devers the Red Sox did, right? I mean, they've got Matt Chapman. I know Matt Chapman's not playing third this year. He's banged up. But when Matt Chapman comes back next year, guess what you're going to do? You're going to kick Rafael Devers to first base. And is he going to react the same way to the Giants as he did with the Red Sox? He's going to be a problem. We'll see. I mean, there's a reason to believe that Buster Posey might be able to handle this, but at the same time, I mean, Craig Breslow is a former player too. It's not like he had some front office GM telling him something that he didn't agree with, and he's like, "Well, you haven't been in these shoes." I mean, you've got a former pitcher being the GM there. You got a former catcher being the GM in San Francisco. So I think at the end of the day, I think Devers will come around. I think he'll end up being fine. I think it'll be a good fit. I think the Giants are very good. Have a good base now of good players. He's going to help them, especially this year. But there's ways that it could go wrong. I mean, it's not a sure thing that this is going to go swimmingly well, and it'll be interesting. I'm very intrigued by this one, and man, that was a wild to see that just out of nowhere too. I mean, we had rumors back a couple months ago that there might be a move with all the things going on with him off the field, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the middle of June, nonetheless, it's not the trade deadline. I mean, it was. He must have come to the front office with some gripe, and there must have been something falling out happened this week or something too. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out.
So there's a bunch of different I want to break down here. So mentioning what we were talking about, Devers being a top 10, top 15 hitter in the game, whatever. Right now, literally, even with his rough start, he is 15th in baseball in WRC plus right now. Obviously, you can't really do it WAR because he's been DH, so it's not really equitable value, good value there. But 15th in WRC plus and 1 point behind the top two ahead of him, which is Kyle Tucker and Manny Machado, right? Like very good hitters there. Yeah. The thing with Devers and a falling out, apparently, this is from stuff that I've been kind of going through all day trying to get information for the show. Apparently, he wouldn't even speak to the owner when the owner flew to, I think it was Kansas City, if I'm not mistaken. Is that where I saw it? No, they haven't played Kansas City yet. Or they did in early May. So I guess in early May, the owner tried to come over and, talk with Devers and smooth things out there. He didn't really want to even have anything to do with talking to that owner at that point, right? Now, you blackballing the person who signed the paycheck isn't really a good idea there. And this whole thing, I've been very vocal on Twitter, talking back and forth with people about this. Some people that listen to this show that we are talking about. This whole thing started because Devers says that Chaim Bloom promised him that he would stay at third base through this contract. And then now that Craig Breslow's in here, they didn't withhold that promise, or they didn't keep up with that promise to him. First off, shut up. Superstar players move around to make your team better. They signed a guy to try and make your team better. And that's what's kickstarting all of this, that you don't want to move off of third base when you were one of the worst defenders at third base in baseball the year before. And then they're like, hey, we just want you to DH. Okay, well, then you're raking from DH. Your first baseman gets hurt. He's out for the year. And they say, hey, we want to try and help make the team better again. Would you play first base? And they're like, no, go out to the market and find a first baseman. You not to bring a glove this year. It's like, this is all very childish from Devers' aspect here. If you are as good as you are, and we all aren't arguing how good Rafael Devers is, you need to be able to do things to help make your team better. You are a superstar. Do the job to play where they need you to play to help the team out. Now, we're talking trade. What's going to happen? Well, you're getting traded to San Francisco, who has a gold glove, platinum glove winning third baseman already as well. They don't have a first baseman, although they have a first base prospect incredibly close. He'll be up within the next year or so. And you're going to be at DH. So are you going to say that you're going to go get traded to the Giants and then be perfectly happy playing first base or DH just because they weren't the ones that promised you when the old regime was not the people that promised you in the first place? Like, this is so mind-boggling that I know he doesn't have control about where he gets traded to, right? But at the same aspect, you can't have played this whole thing out because you want to play third base and then yet get traded to a place now where you're not going to play third base again and say, oh, hey, I'm perfectly fine with this because they weren't the ones that promised me. Right now, the fit with the Giants, I think is great. They don't have a big time left-handed hitter in their lineup. Mm-hmm. This fits right in there. Before it was like Mike Yastrzemski and Jung-Hoo Lee were protecting Elliot Ramos, Willie Adames, and Matt Chapman. Those guys might be fine players, but they're not the protection you need in the middle of the lineup there. So I think overall the Giants getting this trade, I think it's great, obviously, right? Like I think any team, if you said this was the package, they would do it. I'm higher on Kyle Harrison than maybe Matt is. I think, he was just a top 20 prospect in baseball like a year ago. He was like the top left-handed pitcher in baseball prospect, rankings a year ago. Like he struggled a little bit, but I think there's a ton of ability there. We can argue about the rest of the package if we think it's good or not. I think Harrison's a good get, but I definitely thought there should have been more like how, if you're the Red Sox, how are you not getting like Bryce Eldridge or like pushing to get Bryce Eldridge in this trade? There are other guys you should have been trying to target here. And that's the most confusing part is like, are the Red Sox really looking at the contract value as that much of a negative? Because I don't think that looking at the contract value in the market, it's a bad value deal, but the Red Sox must have been so far down the hole with Devers not being willing to do with them that they thought it was a negative asset contract, basically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, a couple comments on what you're saying, Damian. You've got with the thing about moving from third base. I seriously don't understand that. Not to rehash old stuff, but you got paid. The reason to stay at third base is because you're valued higher if you play at that position. Yep. You already got your payday. You're not going to get another payday. You're going to be 30. It's going to be 37 years old when he's a free agent again. I mean, why are we worried about that? Why are we worried about moving around if it's better for the team?
Exactly.
That's one thing. And then, on your other point about the return the Red Sox got, I wonder if his attitude and his issues that he had with the ownership there, I wonder if that's going to it's causing him problems with his trade value too. I mean, because it's been real public. I mean, everyone knows that Rafael Devers has not been a team player in Boston at all. I mean, he seems to really just not care about the team. He seems to care about himself. And I mean, look, I mean, I know that that's something that we push aside a lot as baseball fans. It's a sport where you have individual matchups. It's not as important to have a ton of team chemistry as it is in other sports because a lot of baseball is pitcher versus hitter, and whoever's better wins. But I'm telling you that teams do not like having somebody in their clubhouse who's going to act like that. And I mean, he's going to have to mature. I mean, it's kind of hard to believe you got a 28-year-old guy. He's not a rookie. I mean, and the fact that you feel he's going to have to mature. I mean, I don't know. I think that definitely hurt his trade value, and there were probably a lot of teams who were concerned about even considering him, especially the fact that like the downside of the 9-year, $250 million contract, if he has more problems like this, is pretty high. I mean, that's a lot of money, and there's a few teams that it doesn't matter that much to. But I mean, I don't know that the Giants aren't totally one of those teams, especially with the bad, what looks to be a terrible contract on the books in Adames, and I mean, who knows? But either way, it's going to be interesting. I think there's definitely a lot of upside to this trade with the Giants. I mean, I definitely think that, as you mentioned, having the left-handed bat that desperately needed. But
oh
boy, Matt has been saying that it was storming a little bit over there.
Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Sorry. I am very stupid, and my mouse has tons of buttons on it, and I was trying to click on a tab, and I bumped the side button on my mouse, and it backed, and it goes back. So
There you go.
I left for a second there.
I am
Yeah.
I'm gonna step in and play devil's advocate back into the Rafael Devers thing, though. You know, if I'm a front office, right, and we're griping, right, me and the player, I absolutely am feeding the media that relays it to us fans that it's the player's fault. Right. I absolutely there's no chance in my mind that I'm able to get anything else. What's the player going to say? No, like, you know, the player can't really control the media narrative. And we've got some quotes from Devers that have echoed the sentiments we're being fed. So I really don't know what the whole thing is, but honestly, this reads to me like there's something else at stat play here that's been discussed, right? It can't be, well, I wanted to be third base and now I'm not third base anymore. Like, it can't just be that, right? But we've said that before, like, and it's kind of been the narrative the whole time. Like, it feels like there's some sort of disagreement, beef, something elsewhere, right? Maybe he just really doesn't freaking like Craig Breslow. I don't know what it is, but I'm just not going to jump on Devers is a horrible teammate, because Buster Posey's first comments were about how excited he was to get a hold of Rafael Devers. He felt like they asked him, do you think it's gonna be a problem? Buster said no. I just wonder if there wasn't some sort of really big rift. Maybe it's the owner, right? You talked about John Fisher. Maybe this is an owner directive. John Fisher's been very much on the, like,
Talk about
John
Henry.
Henry. Yeah.
Hey, John
Henry.
Fisher's got his own problems, but he doesn't do this. He's never signed a player, so
I mean, it's very easy saying bad owner and John, and then you just put Fisher.
Right. It's like muscle memory, right?
Yeah.
No, Henry. But Henry has done this before with the Mookie Betts thing, right? He shoved Mookie Betts out the door. They didn't want to pay him. They didn't want to pay the $30 million in 2020, I think. Like,
2019.
Yeah. And he pushed Sale out the door. Like, Henry has just been a bad about this particular thing.
Yeah,
right?
I'll
Big
say
time player, he gets worried about him really quick and tells the front office to move on.
I'll push back a little bit on so the Mookie thing. That was just a terrible decision to not pay Mookie. Right. I mean, the Sale thing was different. That's a guy who didn't pitch for like 4 years, and they got a guy who was a top 100 prospect for a while, had some form of major league success back in that deal. So
I'm shocked that Matt is very defending.
No, it's
that.
not.
Well, I mean, but the fact that Sale all of a sudden got healthy, I mean, that was like a fifth percentile outcome. So I think it was honestly not a bad risk for the Red Sox to try to get something back for him. But it didn't work out for him. I mean, every time you make a trade, there's a certain percent chance that it works. There's a certain percent chance that it doesn't work, and then there's a lot of in between. And they got the Red Sox got literally the worst case scenario they could get in that trade. And the trade in general with Vaughn Grissom not working out too, it was probably a first percentile outcome. Mm-hmm. I mean, because Vaughn Grissom's not even a big leaguer, and Sale won the Cy Young and has been one of the best pitchers in baseball again this year. So, but it's, I don't know.
That's fine. The Sale thing, you keyed up on the Sale thing, but John Henry's been very involved. It puts himself into the players' negotiations. He puts himself into a lot of the items. And if Devers if this thing was if it was an ownership thing, or if whatever happened here happened and fractured, I think it had to have happened and fractured at the ownership level. And worked its way down from there. I just don't think there's any other way an executive is looking at this trade. Craig Breslow, for example, is looking at this trade and saying, yes, that made our team better for this season. Now, Breslow's come out and said that, right? That was what I was talking about. He said there's a chance we'll win more games now. Of course there is. Like a 10% chance. Like, the Red Sox are objectively a worse team right now without Rafael Devers. But this just... it feels like he's being forced into saying that is where.
Well, and here's where I want to think, to throw a little bit more of discussion went back. Like, let's say let's go off your theory that it broke down at the ownership level, right? Why would it break down from the ownership level? What has happened that would break it down from the ownership level outside of Rafael Devers refusing to play a position? Like, there's nothing else that's been out there saying like, hey, you aren't a good player. Well, no, you are. Like all of his teammates say they love him. Like he's not a bad teammate. You still signed that contract 2 years ago. It was in 2023. You signed him to a 10-year extension. Like you let Mookie Betts go. You let Chris Sale go. You let Xander Bogaerts walk. If that's that's looking like a good deal.
Decision. Yeah.
Listen, let me finish, dude.
I'm
I literally was
agreeing
saying it's a good decision at this moment, but you did that to pay Devers.
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling me in a year and a half, 2 years, that something has down from the ownership side of trying to say that this guy isn't worth the money that we paid him 2 years ago after the 2 seasons he's had, which are still been Rafael Devers level seasons, top 15 hitter seasons. I don't see it as a breakdown from the ownership side. I see this as a player's one side of it, and he stopped doing everything, and the ownership in that point, they basically had no other choice at this moment. Like if this guy's not going to be willing to do things to help the team, at that point you have to look and do it, right? Like it's so confusing how something like this can break down and you're not able to resolve it. But if one side doesn't want to get it resolved, there's at one point you just can't do anything at that moment, right? Yeah. I think the weird part is that it's right now where it's June 15th when this deal happened and not closer to the deadline. And then it wasn't a played out thing more. Like you mentioned, the Red Sox have been playing good. They've won 8 out of 10. They've won 5 out of 6 against the Yankees within the last week. Like they just swept them this weekend. Devers hit a homer in that game off of Max Fried. Like they're playing really well. I don't see how this isn't a deal that you just wait until the deadline. And maybe if your team starts playing better, that, maybe something heals itself from there, but also you then get a clearer aspect of like, what teams are willing to do other deals, and you've kind of played this out more. I just feel this is a really weird, odd timing deal to make it this early, and not really have it be this kind of thing where it's a drug out saga where it's like, hey, we know Devers is on the block. It's like everything's been, no, we're not trading him. No, we're not trading him. We're just going to figure this out. And then it's not like even, hey, there's not even speculation about this. Kind of been getting leaked out. Like there's some talks back there. There's been nothing, and then it's just like boom, trade. Like that's the weird part to me.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm 100% in agreement with that. I mean it's weird timing. That's what made me think there was like a falling out this week of some kind, because it doesn't make any sense as to why it happens today. Why are we not waiting until late July, getting close to the deadline, or why did this not happen at the first moment that this came up in the off season? Like I think that's kind of what we're looking at, and the other point that guess final kind of thought on it is with the ownership thing. There's 2 different types of bad owners in sports. There's the owner that just refuses to spend a dime, and there's the owner that over involves themselves. You can spend all the money in the world, but if you're an over involved owner, it's still going to be bad. So you look at baseball, and I mean you think of the teams that are real successful typically. Well, the Dodgers ownership just gives the money and stands on the side, lets Friedman do his thing. You look at I mean, not this year, but the Braves ownership has typically just given money to Alex Anthopoulos and say, go do your thing. And look at bad team or low money teams too. The Rays owner, you never hear about the Rays ownership. They don't spend money, but guess what? They win because the Rays ownership totally gets out of everything and says, this is your budget. This is what you can do with it. And the GM does a good job. You look at Cleveland, the Guardians, their ownership you don't really hear about very often, even though they don't spend, because they are able to figure it out. So what you hear about is the teams like the Rockies, whose owner spends a lot more than a lot of successful teams. I mean, Dick Monfort, for all the problems there are with him, he's not the cheapest owner out there. I mean, he's top. They're usually top 15 in payroll, but he's over involved and he makes bad decisions. Look at the Angels. They're typically top 10 in payroll, but guess what? Their ownership is entirely too involved in everything and is not good at it. So I think that's something important to remember. And the Red Sox could be a case of that too, where we don't know. Maybe Henry promised Devers whatever, and there was communication there, and then this is the problem. I mean, as David was saying. So I think that's definitely. I don't know that the Red Sox are that way, but I think that's definitely something to kind of look out for in general in Major League Baseball. There's not just owners that don't spend that can be bad owners.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can screw things up. So we'll see if that was the case here or not. But that's definitely something that's going on.
I do want to shout out James Tibbs. We kind of dismissed the return. I really like James Tibbs as a pick last year in the first round. He is hitting pretty well in Eugene for the Giants here before getting moved. In A ball. I think Hicks is trying to move the salary around where it's not a total commitment from San Francisco of $250 million. You obviously get out from under the Hicks contract. I think that makes some sense. I think Hicks was kind of the experiment that wasn't really working. And, Breslow and the pitching development in Boston they might insert Hicks back into the bullpen. They might put him in the rotation. We'll see what they do. I think there's some intrigue there because the Boston pitching has been like Crochet by himself to this point. So like, they're probably going to, we'll see. That'll be interesting to see what they do with Hicks. They did already send Harrison to AAA, which tells me they've got some adjustments for him to work on. As far as the return, like it's just not star level. Would be my feeling on it. Is like but Damian mentioned it. I think if they get a better prospect, Tibbs. I like Tibbs, but if they got a better prospect, just one better prospect, and Hicks, I'd feel better. Like if it was an Eldridge and Hicks deal, I think you're talking maybe the Red Sox were cooking. Yeah. But it's just not enough. It's not a star level return. I mean, the Red Sox got way more for Crochet, who was a lot less reliably good, right? He was good for, they paid a lot more for Crochet, who had a lot lower of a track record as a good player.
Yeah.
So,
and just to further your point there, James Tibbs, he actually got assigned to Double-A. He'd been at High A in the Giants organization. He got assigned to Double-A with the Red Sox. I think the biggest concern with him is just being able to hit lefties. He's might be a platoon guy, maybe a Jock Peterson type, which would be good. Jock Peterson's had a really good career. And then I want to shout out. I saw a post yesterday by Eno Saris about Kyle Harrison, basically comparing him to Andrew Heaney with his repertoire, and that he thinks that was probably a good player to move for the Giants, even though he's a former really high-end prospect who's had some level of big league success, that he might end up being one of those guys who's just a four starter at best. Not to be mean to Damian and his Cy Heaney, but
I was going to say that this sounds like some Cy Heaney disrespect right now.
This is Cy Heaney disrespect. I'm sorry, Damian.
This is unbelievable that we allow this type of slander on this show.
But if you're looking at Kyle Harrison as a guy that was part of the return for a superstar player, and looking at him as like this former top 20 overall prospect as being part of that return, where you're saying, well, now you're getting him and then I guess a good prospect in Tibbs, and it makes more sense. Well, no, I don't think Kyle Harrison is going to hit that ceiling that people thought he had. So
I just feel a lot better about this deal if it's Harrison and Eldridge.
Yeah. Right.
Like I feel a lot better about this deal if it's Harrison and Eldridge than it is about Hicks, Harrison, Tibbs, and Bayo. I don't that part about it.
Right.
One thing I just want to mention, we can move on right after this, is this is going to be really interesting to see how the rest of the year plays out, because this really did hurt the Giants' pitching depth. They don't really have much else outside of that. And we talked about the Red Sox being hot. So we can look back at this later. Right now, sitting here, the Giants are 2 games back of the Dodgers for that division, and they are in the second wild card spot. The Red Sox have actually got back to within half a game of the wild card spot at this moment, and they are now, 6.5 behind the Yankees for the division, which I think last week was 8 or 8.5 whenever we mentioned it last time. So something to pay attention to. We'll see moving forward how those races are affected by this. Obviously, I don't know if this is a directly 1 year thing. Obviously, for the Giants, it's more of a long-term deal, but it'll be interesting to see how it affects this year.
Yeah, and the pitching too. I think this was made possible because Landon Roop and Robbie Ray and Hayden Birdsong have all really been good this year.
And they have no one else behind them.
They don't, but I think that's made it possible, because at one time you were thinking Jordan Hicks and Kyle Harrison were like going to be like your 2 and 3 starters, and you would never do this. But I think that with those other guys stepping up, it made it where they could take that risk, and at least like right now their rotation's still fine. Now, if they have Robbie Ray go down or something, or God forbid Logan Webb go down, then they're going to have problems.
If anyone goes down.
Yeah,
yeah.
Logan Webb goes down. That's a whole different set of issues.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah, like it's so. Anyways, so let's move on to the bigger story of the weekend. As you can tell by my shirt here, no, it's Shohei turn to pitching. Obviously, I'm very excited for this, but this really did come out of left field. He'd been working up on sim games. He had got up to about 45 pitches or so. You know, there was even a report yesterday morning saying, hey, the plan is still after the All-Star break for Ohtani to come back, maybe even closer to the trade deadline. There had been some speculation that maybe use him as a short opener because there is the benefit of the extra. He doesn't count towards your pitching staff. There's an extra roster spot for him, technically, so you have an extra bullpen arm. So it was still like, hey, we're still a couple weeks away from that, at least, if not the deadline. And then all of a sudden yesterday, Roberts put after the game, hey, there's a high possibility he starts one of the Padres games. And everyone's like, what? And then like 3 minutes later, the Dodgers put out, yeah, he's starting Monday, like tomorrow, against the Padres. Obviously, the plan is only going to go 1 or 2 innings. It seems like, like I said, he's only built up to 45 pitches, but still, it's going to be his first time pitching since August 23rd of 2023. There's going to be a long game plan here for the ramp up, obviously. But David, what were your first thoughts when we sent that in there? And second, like, what are your expectations about what you expect to see from Shohei this year, pitching wise?
I mean, my first thought is, well, how long until he blows it out again? Right?
Okay,
the Dodgers just always this is objectively good for baseball. It's Shohei Ohtani is a special player. We talk about him all the time, so I don't want to go too deep into like why is this interesting, right? Because we know, but it's cool that it's coming back early. I hope it doesn't harm his development. I still think that closer Ohtani would be the way to get this optimized. It just feels right where he's only built up a little bit. If you bring him, if you build him all the way back to a starter, I mean, you could maybe stop him here, right? Stop the building up. I'm guessing Ohtani just doesn't want to do this. He probably wants to be a starting pitcher, right?
But this is all because he literally went to them and said, "I want to start tomorrow." Like literally, Jeff Passan literally said today on Pat McAfee, like, happened because Shohei went to the Dodgers and said, "I want to pitch now."
All right,
like, all right,
yeah.
Time to go, I suppose. And hey, that's cool. He's gonna be good. It's not a question of if, it's more a question of how much can he pitch and can he keep pitching while the Dodgers recover their guys from the injuries that they've sustained, because that's currently kind of the biggest sticking point in the Dodgers, blowing out the win record is they just don't have anybody pitching right now. So I would love to see Ohtani get back to that point. I still think that, we saw closer Ohtani in the WBC. I think that's the way, right, to get the most out of him. He just comes in, throws 100 at the end of the game. But he obviously wants to start. He wants to be kind of that dual starting pitcher and DH hybrid hit for himself. Classic thing. Like, it's awesome. It's good for baseball. I hope it works. Padres are a tall fast to start, but that's perfect, right? That's quintessential Dodgers Padres rivalry stuff. I love it.
Yeah, I want to. I'm obviously glad that Ohtani is ready to pitch. It's pretty awesome. I mean, the fact that this guy has been doing, the fact that he's done this as long as he has is incredible. I mean, and I think there's a lot of upside here. I do want to dampen people's expectations a little bit.
There we go.
Because last time when Ohtani came back, he wasn't really the same for a little while. It took him some time. And you got to remember, when guys come off of Tommy John, much less their second Tommy John surgery, this is the second one, right?
Mm-hmm.
It takes him some time. And this is we've never seen what we're about to see. And, Shohei Ohtani's been playing, obviously, won MVP last year, not pitching. He's been playing, through it. So it's not like he's just been at rest. And he also hasn't had a rehab assignment at all. All he's done is thrown sim games. And I do not care how much you throw sim games. It's not the same as throwing in the real game. And I think that it's such a we've wondered all along, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do a rehab assignment? Are you really going to send your best player
No.
to
Yeah.
AAA for 3 weeks so that he can pitch?
No.
And this is the way they're going to do it, is they're going to build him up just in the big leagues.
Mhm.
And it's going to be interesting to see, number one, how effective is he going to be right off the bat? Because, I mean, last time he couldn't throw a strike to save his life when he first came back. And then it got better and he figured it out. But I think the other thing too is he's gonna be jumping right into throwing with all the adrenaline of the big leagues. A team that's in a tight division race right now. I mean, the Giants are right there. They're only 2 games back, and is he gonna overdo it? It's one of the things I'm a tiny bit concerned about. I mean, I don't think so, but you never know. So it's going to be interesting. I'm very glad that we're going to get to see him pitch again. I think that it's excellent for baseball, as David said. I totally agree with that. But I do want to say that, like, I wouldn't expect him to come back and immediately be the best pitcher in a top 10 pitcher in the league like he was a couple years ago. Like he might be that way again in the future. But right now, coming back, I'm excited to see him, but just give him a little bit of time before we make judgment on how this recovery's gone and how good he's going to be going forward.
No, I think that's incredibly fair. I mean, if you look at Sandy Alcantara, right? We talked about how good Sandy has. He's struggled this year. His last 3 starts, he's kind of got it back on track. We talk about Spencer Strider. Yep. It's a guy who has really struggled in his return from Tommy John. Like it is not a linear path in returns from Tommy John, especially
your second one. Yeah,
especially your second.
Walker Buehler.
Yeah, I was gonna say Walker Buehler. Like, I was very convinced that his offseason or his postseason numbers, like what he had found in the postseason, was real. At times like it, but it's not consistent. He has over a 5 ERA right now, so you have to be a little bit wary. Now he has made some different changes that I'm interested to see with how he's added a true windup now, or at least a little modified windup. He used to pitch just strictly out of the stretch. He's added a little bit of windup, and he's also changed some of the way his pitches are. He's developed a different style of a splitter, even as good as it was. He's tweaked some of the breaking balls to maybe less pressure off of the elbow. So I'm going to be interested to see how that stuff works. But yeah, this is not going to be a linear path of like expect him to be the 3.01 ERA guy he's been in his entire career so far. Like you're gonna see some struggles here. I'm interested to see how they do the ramp up. If they do it as like, hey, because it is extra innings basically out of your bullpen, it doesn't count towards anything. I wonder if they do, hey, you're going to pitch 1 to 2 innings this week, 40 pitches, whatever. Then next week, maybe you do a bullpen and maybe you work up to 60 pitches. And then, you come to your next game and you pitch 2 to 3 innings at 60 pitches. Like if they do it every other week type thing to get him pitching in games to limit the innings that way and the stress, but still building his pitch count through some of that. This is something that we've just never seen. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how it actually happens, because like Matt mentioned, that you can't send him on a true rehab assignment. This is the first kind of like real rehab through MLB games as you figure it out. So I'll do that. And Adam, I am also happy for Ohtani Day every month. The once a month we get it. I'm happy for that. So anyways, let's go to talk about some injury notes and call-ups as we'll kind of wrap through all of this a little bit faster. But let's go through some of the IL kind of injury stuff, and we'll kind of let you guys hit on each of those. So we've got that Jackson Jobe, my rookie of the year pick for this year, ended up getting Tommy John surgery, which is a big hit to that Tigers rotation. Diamondbacks closer Justin Martinez got pulled out of the game this last week, also is going Tommy John surgery. Ryan Weathers, which was Matt's breakout pick this year, had looked pretty good. Is on the 60-day IL with a shoulder injury. Cole Reagans went on the IL this last week. Bryce Miller went on the IL again. Aaron Nola got shut down from his ramp up. And Hunter Green is getting a second opinion on his back injury that he has. I didn't see the result. So that's a lot of news dump, injury dump there. But David, which one here are you really kind of like pointing out as probably the most impactful?
Gosh, the Cole Reagans thing is just so disappointing. That's my pick for Cy Young too, and he was leading the league in strikeouts when he went down. He was ahead of Skubal in strikeouts when he got the injury. I mean, super disappointing for the Royals, and the Royals have obviously underperformed as a kind of a big piece of that being their ace, who got off to a really good start, hadn't been able to come back and pitch well, and has gone back on the IL with the injury. That's the biggest impact for me. It stinks. The Hunter Green thing though, that one is bad for baseball. Hunter Green's kind of an ascending star in terms of a pitcher too. So it's between those, but because of the Royals, I feel like definitely had AL Central aspirations. They have a team that's good. It's hovering around 500 right now, and that's without their ace. I just wish it was Cole Reagan's able to get a little bit more. What about you, Matt?
I think I'm gonna agree with you on Cole Reagan's, because honestly, he had the weirdest stat line like you've ever seen this year.
Yeah.
He was literally absolutely elite in everything except for his ERA. I mean, it was pretty crazy how unlucky he was in his 10 starts, but that's a big one, especially with it being a shoulder. And if I remember right, Cole Reagan's is kind of came out of nowhere. He was a prospect that was at least had fallen down a lot of people's boards when he got traded to Kansas City. I think injuries might have been involved in that before, if I'm remembering correctly. But obviously, when your pitcher has a shoulder issue, a lot of times it gets said, unless it's a second injury, shoulder can be worse than elbow because it's harder to figure out what's going on there. So that's not good. Obviously, Green's not good. I think that, Martinez is another one that, I mean, the Diamondbacks are kind of in that situation right now where this is a team that we really liked coming into the season, and they're kind of in a situation where their bullpen's been pretty rough, and they're right around 500. They're are they going to buy? Or are they going to sell type right now? They're pretty far out of the division, but they have a chance in the wild card. And they lost Corbin Burns, and now they're losing Justin Martinez. So that pitching staff that struggled a little bit at times is really looking tough right now. So that's not the best thing there. But yeah, I think definitely Cole Reagan's was probably the biggest one.
Yeah, and I was looking up Hunter Green while you guys were talking about that. It sounds like it's a grade 1 strain in his back. Looks potentially be back early July, somewhere right around there. So a couple weeks missed time there. It doesn't sound like it's too major. He did get an epidural in there, but they sound like he's going to push out for a rehab assignment there. So yeah, I think all of those. Job obviously hasn't been great this year, but he also had all the talent in the world to figure it out. It just was a matter of when was it going to click. Ryan Weathers, he had looked really good so far, and that game was super weird because I don't know if you guys saw, he got hit in the head by his catcher throwing down to second base. And then he left the game and everyone's like, oh, he left for concussion purposes. And then it was later the next day, everyone's like, oh, he's in Miami for on his shoulder. Everyone's like, well, nobody even knew about his shoulder. Everything looked fine. But yeah, I think all of those really, but Reagan's is obviously the biggest one with the Royals there. Okay, so we had some call-ups. We had a couple big-time ones with Roman Anthony getting called up. We forgot to mention that with the Devers part of that. Jacob Mizorowski got called up by the Brewers and looked great with 5 no-hit innings in his debut. Christian Moore, another quick call-up for the Angels. He got up there too. So, and then partially we'll talk about with the Brewers deal. They also traded Aaron Savale to the White Sox for Andrew Vaughn. That's where Mizorowski kind of took the roster spot from there. So, David, obviously we know you are a big Roman Anthony fan. So what do you think about Roman Anthony getting called up here?
That's awesome. That's great for him. I mean, 21 years old. He's so young. I mean, we've seen that a couple of times this season, guys coming up at age 21, getting a cup of coffee. I don't expect him to be a superstar level player yet. Obviously Christian Campbell has already struggled significantly, but these guys are super young, super talented. Look at what Jackson Churio did last year, right? Spent the whole entire first half toiling, struggling, turned it on in the second half, had an MVP caliber season, and now he's back to struggling, right? That's not a guy that's just going to take, like you mentioned it earlier, being able to go in that linear path upward. If you can be that linear guy, you're great. Not everybody's Juan Soto, though. Not everybody's just going to keep being great all the time. I think some struggles are to be expected, but I'm excited for Roman Anthony. The rest of these guys are all really talented, but I think eventually he'll be that guy in Boston that maybe can ease the pain of Rafael Devers.
Real quick before you go, Adam or Matt, Adam, if Gage Wood is picked number 2 by the Angels, he might be called up.
Yep, he might be up next week. Yeah,
he might be. So just look out for that. Poor Murray State today, by the way, 19 strikeout, no hitter in the College World Series again. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gage Wood. If you guys, hopefully you listened to our podcast last week. Greg called Gage Wood out as his favorite pick for the Cubs at 17. He ain't gonna be there.
No,
he ain't gonna be there at 17.
No,
He gonna be gone.
That.
He's gonna be gone. He
might not be there. He might not be there at 3.
Yeah.
I wanna mention one more guy from the College World Series, Jacob Morrison. Had a great game last night. He's somebody that I really liked from watching him last week. And I don't know that we mentioned him last week.
No, we didn't.
But he's got a little bit of he's from Coastal. He's got a little bit of helium in his draft status right now. He's been really good. So, but on the guys that we just talked about here, the Christian Moore thing's really interesting to me, just because the Angels are doing it again, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Obviously, Roman Anthony's going to be the biggest thing here. I mean, he's the number 1 prospect in baseball. I mean, anytime the number 1 prospect in baseball gets called up, it's a big deal. Mizorowski is going to be interesting. I'm excited to see how the Brewers use him. I think he's a better reliever than starter. So it'll be interesting to see if the Brewers put him in the bullpen more. And that Savali for Vaughn trade is kind of interesting. I mean, the White Sox, get Savali in there to see if they can maybe get some real value back out of him. He's been a good pitcher at times, but he's been really bad this year. And then you look at Andrew Vaughn he's like the Spencer Torkelson career arc, but backwards this year. Like if Spencer Torkelson didn't take a step forward, that's what Andrew Vaughn is. Same kind of a prospect, this big right-handed first base only guy that was picked at the top of the draft. He's been really bad this year, but the Brewers might figure something out with him. And I mean, he was the number 3 pick in the draft or whatever it was for a reason. He was good. So, and he's had years where he was not terrible. I mean, he had a 113 WRC plus in 2022, even though he was so atrocious defensively, his value was bad. You throw him at DH, and that's not the end of the world. They might be able to figure something out with him, but I think it's kind of unlikely. But you never know.
I think it's exactly a shot in the dark you take if you're the Brewers. Because you still get a couple years of control there. Hoskins, who most likely is going to get traded here at the deadline, and you open up a spot for your top pitching prospect. You can't argue with 5 no-hit innings right off the bat in his major league debut, and probably would have gone out for the 6th had he not rolled his ankle with it. Obviously, he has some command issues, but still. So yeah, I think all of those are pretty exciting call-ups that we'll look at for the future. But let's move on to wrap up the show with player of the day. So David, go ahead and take it away.
We have 6 pitchers getting player of the day this week.
Wow.
But the first one was Josh Naylor with a walk-off grand slam on June 9th. That was our first one. We had Andrew Abbott. I think he had a complete game, and I don't think it was a shutout. I think he gave up a run, but he had a complete game. David Peterson then won with a complete game shutout. And then Tariq Skubal won another player of the day. I believe that he leads now with 4 over Soderstrom, Yamamoto, and PCA with 3. Then Garrett Crochet won his first. I don't see Crochet elsewhere on here. I'm pretty sure that he would have been on here. So yeah, Crochet's first somehow. Then Spencer Strider had 13 strikeouts on Saturday.
60.
Yeah, and so that was player of the day for the 14th. Grant Holmes had 15 strikeouts yesterday. That's the major league lead this season for a single game. Yeah. Grant Holmes for the Braves. So the Braves go back to back. I didn't even put up a poll for that one. I was like, we don't need to poll the lead in strikeouts. Grant Holmes picking it up. I know it's the Rockies. Ain't nobody else has done that. Everybody's, the Rockies played 70 games. Nobody else has struck him out 15 times. So great for Grant Holmes, obviously. So who do you guys want to vote for this week for player of the week?
I'm going to go with Spencer Strider. I mean, he's really kind of struggled since he came back, but this is the best he's looked. His velocity was up on Saturday, which was super encouraging to see. He looked like himself. He was able to locate his fastball up in the zone and actually get it by guys. A lot of guys have been either fouling it off or hitting it hard when it's been up in the zone so far. He's been throwing 94, 95 instead of his 97, 98. So he was back to 97, 98 on Saturday. And I want to shout out. I do want to talk just briefly about Grant Holmes and what a story that is. That he's kind of come out of nowhere. He's a former first-round pick. He's got talent, and he kind of came out of nowhere, and he's been good. I think he's over something like 11 strikeouts per 9 or something this year. Like, he's been really good. So that's interesting. The Braves were 1 strikeout away from the all-time record in 2 games. And the bad part about it is the Braves, after Grant Holmes left the game on Sunday, he got pulled in the 6th inning or the 7th inning or whatever. The relievers came in and gave up 9 runs. And they lost like 10-1. So in the 9th inning, instead of having a pitcher in there that would have gotten a strikeout to tie the record or break the record, they had Luke Williams pitching. So they weren't able to do it. It would have been interesting if Luke Williams had been the guy that got the strikeout to get to break the all-time record for strikeouts in a 2-game span. But it's what it is.
Yeah, so I want to shout out David Peterson. I want to go with him. Complete game shutouts, we don't see them nearly as much anymore. Obviously, we got one from Scooball a while back that was just an absolute dominant one against the Guardians there. But Peterson's really flew under the radar this year. I mean, he has a 2.49 ERA, a 3.03 FIP. He's not striking out a ton. He's only 8 strikeouts per 9, but he looks fully past that hip injury that he had for a while. He's looking really good. The Mets are going to need him, especially since Senga went down, which we didn't even talk about that. Senga's going to miss a while too. So is it probably the best player of the day vote here? No, but I really like what David Peterson's done this year, and I don't know if he'll ever get on the poll again. So I want to shout him out, so I'll pick him.
Here's the deal. If we pick Spencer Strider, that would be 3 Braves pitchers getting player of the week in the span of a month and a half. Yeah. I am going to go ahead and veto that happening. Sorry, Spencer Strider and Grant Holmes. Amazing work. But some people might start to call us biased. I'm going with David Peterson. I will pick up the train on the complete game shutout group there. I thought, I didn't even think necessarily Peterson deserved it, but you guys voted for David Peterson. I'm going to pick up the banner and then say that he will be player of the week and enjoy that as well. So please vote on our polls. Cast you guys' voice comes here. This is where we have the debate, but you guys get to cast the voice, put your voice out on who you think it should be. So if you want a David Peterson to go in, I've put up plenty of people that are maybe not as deserving. I think I had the Denzel Clark for the 1 catch going over the wall one day. Nobody voted for him. But I had him in there. If you wanted him in there, vote for him.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll say on David Peterson too. He reminds me a little bit of a poor man's Max Fried. His profile gets a ton of ground balls. His expected numbers aren't ever going to look incredible, but I mean, you're looking at him right now. He's got a 2.50 ERA. That's a little bit lucky, but he's got a 3.03 FIP, 3.36 xFIP. He's been really good. I think he's just one of those pitchers who probably outperforms a little bit of what you kind of expect of him from the StatCast data. And good for him. I mean, he's been around a while. He's never really been this guy. So
he discovered the anti-walk.
He did.
I'm not
you
walking.
Got to throw strikes.
Throw strikes. And every time a pitcher discovers that, I love it. I'm so happy for him.
Absolutely. Well, that will wrap up this episode of the Bat Flip Podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you guys back next week.